All right, 3, 2, 1. Josh Munoz, you popped my cherry, bro.
Feels good, man.
You're my first and only love at this podcast game.
It's very exciting stuff.
Also, I want to thank you for letting me come over here and intrude your privacy.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so just a little background information. Josh Munoz is a photographer. He's a independent contractor. Is that what you would say?
Yeah.
That would be the formal way to say it, right?
Safe to say, yeah.
Would you call yourself a contractor? Does that sound too harsh?
No, not at all.
I mean, I don't want to
I mean,
offend you with your brown skin.
If you want to be, technical about it,
Is that like a construction worker?
Yeah. As far as tax purposes, yeah, contractor.
Okay, so just so you know, you were on my radar about whenever I knew I was going to start a podcast. You were on my radar for one of the people I wanted to do. I didn't plan that you would be the first one, but I guess just so everybody knows what my plan is for this podcast is, I'm not just going to be sitting down and having conversations with anybody. I just found you to be sort of inspirational, and much of how this podcast that I'm trying to launch off is an endeavor that I'm just taking on because I want to do something different with my life. I feel like you also take some sort of stance on that. You go out and do something that you love, and you taught. I'm sure from the conversations they had that you've taught it to yourself, right? And you were passionate about it, and you continue to do it because that's what you want to do.
Yeah, that's correct.
Cheers.
Cheers to that.
So you were on my radar for that, and yeah. So recently you just went to Enchanted Rock, right?
That's right.
And I've seen you take beautiful pictures. If I was ever going to take pictures naked, you would be the guy to do it. I feel like you could take out every little mole on my penis.
Absolutely.
Possible.
Absolutely, I could.
You might have to look hard, but no. But so tell me a little something about. I know that we've had personal conversations about how you started photography, but just go, I guess, and give us a little background information on photography and how you started.
Well, it all started when I got my first iPhone. Saw the real capabilities that it had at the time, for something that compact, that easy to use. I had friends introduce me to different apps and different, software that you can use to edit your pictures, and that was really inspiring, It kind of gave me something to do, a little project just to kind of run with, Anywhere I'm going, I can have this thing with me, and I can take a picture of whatever I see, whatever I think is eye-catching, and I can share it with the world, and it's so easy. It's just it's very inspiring, very compelling. It's just like, why not do it? If you're going about your day and you see something, that's worth sharing, everybody.
You know why? Because life is fucking brutal, and some people don't stop and see the beauty in it.
Yeah,
that's why. Most people are not like, hey, look at this, the way this shadow is hitting this fucking building.
Yeah.
Most people are like, God damn it, I gotta get home to my 6 screaming kids and feed them fucking macaroni and cheese before everyone fucking goes to sleep.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I guess if you're stopping and seeing, living in the moment, you're noticing those things.
Yeah, because that's what I value, and I can see how people value other things in their lives, and they're busy and they have priorities, but as far as my life goes, I prefer to be out there showing people what they're missing, That's what I find to be the most useful, or just to make somebody see something that they see every day in a different light, something that they can get a little bit more value out of something, which, I that's very inspiring to me.
Okay, well, so you started using an iPhone.
That's right.
Which, would you say traditionally that is the normal route somebody would go, I guess, or is that just a generational gap? Clearly, it's a generational gap between the technology.
Yeah.
But I'm saying when you started, would you say traditionally that most people would have jumped in using some kind of phone, considering how advanced the technology is with phones, or just most people go with starting out with cameras? That's clearly the advancement in technology for cameras is also up there too.
It's hard to say what most people are doing, but I feel like during this time it's very common for folks to be picking up a phone you know, and using that just to see how they like taking pictures, how they enjoy the experience, you know, like, and I feel like that's purely like the last, 10 years or so.
Right.
you
So
know?
it's so as far as so then it must be a generational gap. Because and technology it plays a big role in that too. Because if you were to go back before when did the first iPhone come out? 2003.
No, I don't know, man.
2000, probably around 2003, right? We sound like a couple of fucking idiots. But let's just say that it's somewhere around there. Before that, how accessible was it, do you think it was for the information on learning how to use a camera? I know that these Adobe softwares have been around for quite some time, like 20 years, but I'm sure it was much harder. With most things in life now, technology is making it so much easier. Even photography. I mean, it's got to be making things a lot easier. It's got to be making the process a lot quicker, right?
Definitely. It's putting, the capabilities in the hands of thousands and thousands of people. It's an essential tool these days, a phone, whatever, mobile device that you have.
Explain to me what do you use? Okay, I'm gonna sound like a dumbass, but as far as editing photographs that you take, how much editing are you doing, or is it applied to the same thing like you do with like Instagram, like filters, or what is the process of, let's say you would take a photograph and you were going to edit it and fix it up and make it look appealing, or however you desire it to look? How is that process?
That process has changed over the years.
In what way?
Well, before I used different apps, like Visco or Snapseed and mobile apps like that. But I was shooting, actually, I didn't know what a raw photo was. So I was shooting
raw photo?
I was shooting in JPEG in the early days.
Fucking a woman raw? Like no condom?
No, like raw. Like it means like it's an uncompressed file. It's just a large, it's just large data.
And what would be the opposite? That a zipped file?
It's not zip. It's an actual like. It's not even a picture, technically speaking. It's data that programs like Lightroom or Photoshop can convert into a picture.
Oh, so it is a digital file, but it's just
the difference
not
between,
compressed.
Right, but the difference between the two is JPEGs are JPEGs. Like you can take a picture, you can take a JPEG, you can edit it to a certain degree, but you can't really get the full scope of, editing capabilities like that you can from a raw photo.
Right,
so
a JPEG is essentially what you would export that file as. It's accessible.
It takes up less space, and it's just it's for the
consumable.
It's for the average user, right? Someone who wants to just take the picture and put it on the computer and call it a day. You know what I mean? But raw photos, you're able to edit those like crazy. Like you can change colors on. You can single out individual colors. You can edit those. You can do a lot of noise reduction. You can sharpen. You can really open it up, and you can, in some ways, take it to the next level. Some people don't prefer to do it that way. Some people still to this day shoot film, and they do it entirely on film, and they do their adjustments or their, modifications to their photos in the dark.
They try to do the least. They try to do as least, I guess, editing or manipulating that they possibly can. That's a style, right? But that's with anything. That's with
analog,
music.
yeah.
Like with music, like these fucking rappers that do the auto-tune shit.
Everybody has a different approach.
That's what I'm saying. There's so many disciplines to everything in life. Like, I guess the example that came to mind was like rappers that do auto-tune. Some people like me, I would probably say to that you're not really fucking singing, because it's clearly digitally enhanced in some way, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, we know it's not singing, and it's like, and to some degree, they must know it's not singing either.
Right. But some people do have respect for all disciplines. It doesn't matter what it is.
But the interesting thing about that is that it's become a style. It's become the norm. If you're attempting to make this sort of music, you adhere to the formula. You use the proper samples, you use the proper auto tuning. Something that's going to emulate what it is that's inspiring you.
Right. It's a science. It has to be learned. It's not something that, clearly, if you're putting out, it's not real estate. if you're putting that much time into singing into a microphone and then digitally enhancing it in some way, you have to have some kind of emotional attachment to it. It has to be appealing to you. It has to be pleasing to you in a way that you think that you can distribute that music to other people and see how they think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not so structured like law or something like that. It's a creative endeavor, much like photography or podcasting or whatever you want to say. It's another route. It's another way to go. It's another discipline in a bigger discipline.
That's right.
So I guess when you go shoot photos, in fact, we had an insanely intriguing conversation about you taking photographs in video games.
Oh, that's
so
right.
that's something that I wanted. We had this conversation, and I wanted to bring this up because I think that I haven't stopped thinking about it it's probably been 2 weeks since we had that conversation, but it's fascinating. So I guess getting into that, me and Josh had this conversation. I was drinking some beers, and you play Grand Theft Auto. That's the game, right?
It's actually called Watch Dogs. It's
Okay,
very
Watch
similar. It's
Dogs.
very similar to Grand Theft Auto, except in this game you're a hacker and you work with the other group of hackers to kind of, expose, criminal activity, from big businesses and corporations and whatnot. It's
You're
just
playing the sketchy fuck you can't be in life. In
that's
other words,
right,
like
yeah,
most video games.
Exactly. You get to do all the cool shit.
And what system is this on?
It's on a PlayStation 4. I recently acquired it. I was really looking forward to getting back into playing some video games, something to just take my mind off stuff and, have a little bit of fun here at home. You can only watch so much TV, you know what I'm saying? But
so what this topic is very fascinating to me. So you in the game, let's say you're not doing the normal, you're not playing the normal flow of how the game goes. You're off doing your own thing, much like you would equate Grand Theft Auto to,
right.
I guess.
Right. It's the same thing, man.
Right.
It's pretty much the same thing. It's just.
And so your mind, being a photographer, you're appreciating the aesthetic. Excuse me. You're appreciating these aesthetics in the game. And your mind is working in a way like, man, this is something I could take a photograph of. And so there's a way that you can take screenshots or photos in the game and
That's
capture beautiful moments
That's right.
in the game.
Yeah, that's
but
right,
it's in a simulated world.
That's right.
And it's also technically, actually not even, it is somebody else's work.
It's somebody else's art, man, and but it's interesting because it applies the same way as it would when I'm outside in the actual world, taking pictures, of my own.
Are you a religious person?
I'm not a religious person, no.
Okay, we got that off the table. Everybody mark that.
So, but, the light changes. There are random people walking around, and they have their own mannerisms. And, some people are smoking a cigarette. Some people are dancing. Other people are, like, playing a guitar, and the weather's changing, too. So the light is changing. The sun is setting. It's raining, or there's some fog or whatever.
It's a simulated world.
It's a simulated world, but it's interesting because I still feel compelled to take out the in-game camera phone that you're equipped with. You carry it around you all the time, so you can literally at any moment stop and take a picture of this simulated world.
Okay. Well, let me say this. First of all, would you say more often than not that people would make some form of realization that you did about the beauty of a simulated world and taking pictures, or do you think that that's just in your mind with who you are in this world that you felt compelled to take those pictures? Because I wouldn't say that most people, of course most people are getting stoned and fucking playing 12 hours of this game and beating off in between each level or whatever the fuck it is.
Yes.
And shoving Cheetos in their face. That's
Absolutely.
fine. It doesn't. Yeah, that's all fun and that's all fun,
man.
fine and dandy.
It's
but
indulgence, man. You know,
it's consuming.
It's great.
But I
time
just
to time,
think
man, it's relaxing stuff.
I just think that
It's a hobby, man.
it
You
is
have to think about it as
much
a
like
hobby.
anything. But then so
You have goals. You know, you're not just you know. I think the argument could be made that some people may be applying less mental, stimulation from just watching something than from playing something using your brain, where you have to solve problems and you have to get from one spot to another,
Have you? I don't know if you've ever actually looked this up, but there's studies out there about how people who play video games a certain amount of hours a week, how they are more inept and more equipped to deal with issues in life that would, call for better problem solving and better stress regulating skills, because in the middle of these games, I mean, there's stories laid out for you. So you are failing, you're succeeding, you're having to problem solve, you're having to think. Although you're playing another character, it is your own cerebral thoughts, your own mind that is thinking and problem solving to get past this level or get to a certain place in the game. So there are these studies out there basically proving that video games, although very fucking unhealthy, they do have some kind of what would you call
benefit.
Neurological benefit.
Yep.
They're rewiring the brain in some way to catalog a survival mechanism, you could say, to deal with life in stressful situations and problem-solving situations better. And even though you're learning that in a simulated realm, your brain does not technically tell the difference. It's much of like how your body consumes sugar. You can eat a fucking apple or you can eat a bag of Skittles. Your body does not know the difference between, or your body does not break down that sugar, and it does not recognize that sugar in a different way. The unhealthy part is the Skittle just has all this other like dyes and all this terrible other shit that's a part of it.
Sure.
But much like, we're talking about the game, it does have its benefits, but it also has its negatives. Right. So I think that, that's fascinating, that although we can find, but much of life is a balance, right? The fucking yin and yang shit.
Yes.
Things are negative, things are positive, and in these video games, you might be benefiting as long as you're not shoving Cheetos in your face.
It's still liberating to find a picturesque scene and bust out the camera and take a picture of it, because it's not. There is still, regardless of how much of what I'm seeing belongs is the artistic property of somebody else, right?
Right. You're appreciating it in a way.
But I'm also introducing additional variables, right? I'm the one who controls where the camera goes. I control what subject matter enters the frame at what point in time. I choose, I'm choosing the angles. I'm choosing the moment, whether I stand on a ledge and zoom super far, and or apply certain filters, there's still a good amount of freedom that they give you in experimentation, that you can still do something. And actually, I just completed, I think it was, you had to take pictures of 57 different spots around the city. And so I just spent a good couple hours, not even playing the game, not shooting anybody, not hurting anybody, just wandering around the town, taking pictures of.
I shoot cameras, not guns, bro.
Taking pictures of these landmarks, dude, and people, and it's still cool, man, because I've never been to the Bay Area. The game takes place in San Francisco. I've never been there, but there has to be, there's still that resemblance between what it actually looks like and what they designed it to look like.
Right, it's not based off nothing.
It's legit, man. It's it's a lot of fun, and you get to stand out in the stormy weather and take pictures of rainy traffic cars, on an overpass or something. You don't have to worry about getting your camera wet. You don't have to worry about, how cold it is outside. And I'm not saying that I prefer to take pictures in video games. I just I think that it's still a lot of fun. It's just
right.
Why the hell not? Because I read online, that the same principles apply, because when you're in a new place, you feel submerged. It's a submersive experience. Have I ever been to the Bay Area? No. Would I want to visit there now? Absolutely. You know, it's good stuff, man. And it's still a great way to express your creativity. Because some people might just they still don't see it, even though it's right in front of them. The beautiful sunset and the mountains and the composition. You have to have a sense for that. Just because someone made it easy for you in a game doesn't necessarily mean that somebody who's playing that game can go and take as good of a shot as somebody who may have experience in the real world taking pictures.
Would you say that universally it's maybe a personality trait that photographers might be more patient than other folks? Clearly more observational. You have you have a more creative aspect as a part of your personality. But would you say that y'all would be more patient people?
With more patient people?
Maybe the patience comes from the fact that you're passionate about what you're doing, right?
There are some. I would say that differs, man. I mean, there are some people who are very patient, and people who put an elongated amount of effort towards.
Like they're willing to sit out till they get that shot.
Yes. And I've asked other street photographers that I know. I'm just like, how long have you ever camped somewhere to get a shot? And they're like, well, about 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You know what I mean? And I've been known to sit on a spot, if the light's really good and everything looks good, I'll camp there for, 20, 30 minutes. So it's interesting because, I don't know, a lot of what makes me good at photography that attracts me to photography. The puppy's
Drink that water, dog. No, I probably can't hear on the camera. It doesn't matter. Fuck it. Talk. Okay. Sorry, I don't interrupt you, but I have a question for you.
Yeah.
This just came to me. So I made the point about how you're taking photographs of technically someone else's work. It's your eye. You're catching things in this simulated world based on your knowledge and your observations in the real world. But it is somebody else's work. But much like you could say that you're taking pictures in somebody else's work or game that they created. Mm-hmm. You could say that with the same thing about, you could equate that to nature. If you're sitting in nature and you're taking a photograph of...
I was going to say the same thing.
If you're taking a picture of some elk in nature, just because the elks don't have fucking thumbs and they don't fucking know how to...
They can't sue you.
They can't sue you. Doesn't mean that what they're doing is not their work. It might be... It's nature, it's biology, it's life. What they're doing is they're playing out their life in a way that's the same concept you could apply to somebody that does, a video game. That's their life, that's their work.
Yep.
And it's much like if anything in life, if people who take photographs of, in real life, I keep saying real life as if we know that this is real life. This could all be simulated, which is the reason why my fucking podcast is called Simulation Clearly, bitches. But saying that this is real life, it's real life to us as far as we know, right? If you were to take pictures of me while I was in a diner drinking coffee and I sneezed and you caught that in the perfect time when my snot was flying fucking across the room and the light was hitting at the perfect fucking time, you're essentially taking picture of my work. That sneeze was my work, bro. I worked it up in my body and I fucking, excreted it.
It's a compelling argument, man. It's one that could be made, especially if there were like monetary gain in this situation. I feel like that
monetary gain in what way? What do you mean, with video game photography?
No, if I were to take a picture of your sneeze and I framed it up and I sold it for $1,000, and I didn't have you sign a release. But back to what you were saying before, it's like, I'm sure thousands upon thousands of dollars have been made on pictures of the Empire State Building, right?
Right.
But does every damn architecture, contributor, or, construction worker get a piece of the pie? Absolutely not, dude.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it's interesting how it works like that, man. You could take a picture of the Eiffel Tower, you could take a picture of, whatever kind of landmark, but
That's exactly another great example. I think maybe
It makes you question whether or not what we actually see in life, is created by somebody else, or if it's just
everything
merely...
is created by somebody else.
Yeah.
This fucking goddamn apartment you're living in is created by somebody else.
Oh,
You
yeah.
take
Well,
pictures
yeah.
in this shit. If the law preceded you to fucking, it preceded the person that made this building to sue you for taking pictures of it, even though you pay rent here, then you would be out of bounds as far as the law goes. But with the whole architecture thing, that's a perfect example. It is somebody else's work, but I would say that producing pictures like this or producing media that involves other people's work, which everything does, any movie has shit that other people has built, which is other people's work. I would say that it is appreciating that work. And I would say the only time that it steps out of those boundaries to where you can find some, I guess, in game where it is negatively affecting the maker, producer, builder, whatever it be, to some kind of work, I would say that that's when the ego gets involved.
That's when money gets involved.
Well,
That's it.
Why do we
take
have money issues? Ego. Why do people get rich? Ego.
Right.
We don't fucking... If we didn't care... If money didn't get us fat asses and whatever the fuck we wanted, then we wouldn't care about it. It'd be much like anything else in the world. It's money, which is, by the way, a fabricated reality in itself. Much of the reason why we run into all these issues, laws, lawyers. Did you know that if we're gonna bomb another country, do you know who calls that shot?
Who's that?
Lawyers.
Interesting.
Lawyers. Not the fucking president.
No?
No, lawyers. The president's lawyers say, "Hey, bro, yeah, hit that fucking button and blow up a bunch of fucking slant-eyeds." And that's not for me. Sorry, guys. I'm not racist. But what I'm saying is, we've created this world where there's so many moving parts. There's too many egos involved that now we have to be tiptoeing through everything, much of the movements we see going on right now. So back to the point, what I'm saying is that I think that when a suit is involved with reproducing somebody's work, which I don't know if you would call taking photographs or something about another person's work and then them trying to sue you is reproducing their work, I would just say that in my eyes, it should be seen as appreciating it. But when it doesn't get appreciated, I would say that the ego gets involved. Meaning, oh, you step boundaries. That's my work. You shouldn't be taking pictures of that. You can't make monetary gain off something I produced, right? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm 16 steps ahead, which is how my mind works. But is there a world out there where people are doing what you're doing with the video games? Like you're not the only one. I'm sure that many people are taking photographs in video games, right?
I'm absolutely not the only one.
Is it a big thing?
It is actually, yeah, it's actually a big thing on its own. It's called screenshotting. And I found an article online that was kind of just highlighting people who take it very, very far.
Do they make money off of it?
That I don't know. I really don't think so.
Do you think there'd be some kind of law infraction or something?
Implications for sure.
Right.
And who would want to? You know what I mean? I mean, I feel like it's a hobby and it should kind of be treated as such. If you can do what you do and purely benefit, these video game developers, then do it that way. You know what I mean? Get hired by them to take screenshots of their games and they commission you for it.
I didn't think about that. That's a good route to go about it.
I mean, I imagine that's where people get the screenshots that they use for their games
now. For magazines and shit, right?
For magazines
or trailers,
yeah, dude.
Before they put the games out.
Yeah, dude. I mean, you've got to have
social media.
Not anybody can just do it. That's a misconception. You need somebody with an artistic taste, and
right.
The requirements are still there, and that's why I think that, as far as the value of the screenshot goes, it should be accredited fully to the person who took it. But there's still those liberties, that belong to,
the maker, the creator.
The creator, man. You know what I mean? It's a collaboration of sorts, and that's the way I see it.
Okay, so
you laid out the borders for it. I just came in and, it's like you guys made it a state park and closed off the said this is what the state park is, and people come in and they take their own shots. You know what I mean? It's a collaboration.
Right. But people do make monetary gain off of
nature photography.
Nature.
That's right.
Like natural photography.
That's right.
But not in a simulated world.
I just meant merely as like you defined it, I captured it. You know what I mean?
But what I'm saying is there's sort of how would you say this? Like a contradicting. There's sort of like a contradicting stance on that, right? Because you could look at somebody's game, that's a fabricated world that you're taking photographs of. You make monetary gain, that's okay. But in the natural world, that's a normal thing. And what the fuck is National Geographic? It's, you know what I mean? Like, they're making money. That is its own fucking established. What would you say? Company? Is it a company? It's a
publication.
A publication. It's an established publication. So, could you see in the future maybe that what you're doing or what your hobby is could be something that could make money? It could be of monetary value.
That's the goal, man.
Yeah,
that's the goal.
You don't think so? So you don't think there's anything wrong with that?
Wrong with what?
Taking pictures of, like, say in a video game, like a simulated world. Somebody else's, because somebody clearly had to create that entire game.
Do I find a problem with making money illicitly from screenshots, of other people's work? Yes.
Okay, but
do I find any implications, or any shame in making money from art that I've created out in the actual world?
But giving like credit, right? That's what you're saying. Is
always give credit where
credit
is due.
Right.
That's the rule. That's just the rule. You know what I mean? If I take a picture of your building, I'll do my best. I'll tag your building. I'll tell you where it is. You know what I mean? Like, do I necessarily go through and try to figure out, like, what architects, created the building that I captured? Not necessarily. You know what I mean? But I still like to be able to give credit where credit is due, for sure. Just as I would appreciate that likewise.
Man, my mind just fucking goes on about that whole concept. It's crazy. It's crazy to think because
of taking pictures of video games.
Yeah, and not that
it is interesting, man.
I'm not talking about it because I'm only talking about it because it's fascinating. It's fascinating to me because with so many people are so different. You run into so many different people, and to actually sit down and talk to somebody about what they're into. Like, if I didn't know you as well, we would have never got into a conversation where I found out that you were into doing something like that, which that's fascinating to me because some people might just say, oh, this fucking guy takes pictures in a video game. He's a fucking weird nerd, piece of shit. Whatever. He's like, this guy's just a fucking weirdo. Like, what are you doing? You're just taking pictures in a video game. But to me, it unraveled this whole fucking world of what people...
Of what that means. Yeah. Of what that means,
Exactly.
And it's something... Obviously, it's a very new age thing. It's not something that people are used to, man. It's an interesting concept. It still falls in line with at least the past like 20 years of simulated living. You know what I mean, through video games. And now we're teetering on trying to perfect virtual reality. You know what I mean?
Autonomizing fucking technology and fucking. Biology, basically.
It's interesting, man, and it's starting to blur things, but I'm still firm in that. I still think that the creativity is there, and it still requires a bit of curiosity and, creativity, to say the least. It's just like if you see something nice in the game, and I don't know, man,
it was a rainy day. I was playing this game, right, and it was raining. The light was getting nice and warm, and it was hitting everything nice.
Aesthetically pleasing to you.
It was aesthetically pleasing.
It jerked your brain off.
The shadows were darkening, and so you wait. You just camp. You wait. You get the bridge looking. There's a bridge in the back. You get it looking how you want to. And then you just kind of just wait there for the right person to come by. But it's still entertaining to watch as you're waiting for that moment, because you're still observing. You're just soaking all that in, and that's something it's captivating me, you know what I mean? It's interesting to me. It has my attention, so in that regard, like, it has tremendous value, because it's anything that'll distract you, not distract you, but that'll instead inspire you instead of, something that'll worry you or distract you. You know what I mean? It's something that's stimulating,
Of course.
It's nice to watch. It's why you watch a movie. It's the same thing like watching a movie,
right? Right.
Except you're able to take a snippet of it, and freeze it, stop it.
And
somebody passes by with an umbrella, or somebody's smoking a cigarette, and the puff still comes out. Like, the variables are there, dude. You know what I mean? And yes, it's automated, and yes, it's AI, but it's still there's still a significant amount of, like, how do you say, like, it'd be really difficult to recreate the same picture twice, I'm sure.
Right.
Because, dude, there are, like, hundreds and hundreds of random, designed characters that are just, like, roaming this extremely large map. It's an open world map. So you can get in every little crevice almost, and you can get the right shot, and you can spend a whole day doing that if you want to. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's, especially when sometimes maybe you're feeling uninspired with what you see around you immediately.
It's a different approach.
It's a different approach, man.
Look at that.
It's a different approach, and
refreshing. It's like a reset button.
Yes, because sometimes, I know that most folks think that actually getting in your car and going out to take pictures would be the better thing to do, or the more fun, more fulfilling thing to do. You know what I mean? But that's not always true, because you don't always go out and you snag something amazing and beautiful. It takes obviously it takes effort. You have to get in your car. You have to think about the weather. You have to, like, endure. Say if you're going out to take pictures of people on the street, you have to endure the anxiety of having to point your camera at people you don't know, people confronting you, people threatening you, and it can become too much. And sometimes that can hinder your ability to actually get out there and go do it. Sometimes you become intimidated.
That is interesting.
You become intimidated by the real world.
It's like a psychological approach.
You don't want to get run over. You don't want to get struck by lightning. Sometimes it does get to you. And sometimes it makes it hard to stay inspired. So it's nice to just be. It's interesting. It is very. The way I think about it.
It's a comfortable way to express your discipline.
Express myself, man. Yeah.
Express yourself, express your creativity. Yeah. You're in the comfort of your own home, which I would say that comfort all the time is not beneficial, but it's still flexing that muscle.
Would I say that it's ideal? No. Like, of course I love to go out and meet actual people, you know what I mean? But I don't know, that doesn't necessarily diminish the value of, meeting whoever you might meet on the street in this game. You know what I mean? There are interesting characters out there, and they'll still react to you, to your presence, you know what I mean, and stuff. They'll get mad if you point the camera at them sometimes, and it's crazy how that kind of mirrors real life.
Right.
Well,
I mean, I'm sure much of what's produced in these games is mirrored off of what we call real life.
I'm gonna have to show you before you leave. I'm gonna have to show you the pictures that I've taken.
Oh yeah, I'll
there's a gallery of them. There's a whole gallery of them, man. So and it's.
Let me transition this to, what do you think? Clearly, photography. We'll just talk about photography in its own discipline has transitioned because of and evolved because of the advancement in technology. So let's just say on a macro level, do you ever think about what technology is going to do to our, not say society, let's not say society, let's to our species, to this world, let's say in, you know, the next 20 to 50 years. Do you ever think about that? Do you ever think about how there's people who are putting on goggles, watching virtual reality.
There are people having virtual sex, man.
That's what I was gonna say. Fucking beating off and fucking things that aren't there.
Yep.
But like I said, much like, you know, to go back to make this full circle, your mind is not capable of differentiating between those experiences, because your mind, although it's resilient, is also very primitive. It's only analyzing chemical reactions. So if a video game is causing some kind of chemical reaction in your brain, a dump of serotonin, of dopamine, you're feeling that pleasure regardless if what you're looking at or fucking or jerking off to is real or not.
Right.
So what do you ever stop and think about, you know, whether or not the future generations are going to be like, or how you're going to be? I mean, we're going to be old men whenever essentially people are going to be banging robots.
People are already banging robots, dude.
But they're going to be better.
They're going to be
way better. There's not going to be this robotic hand jerking. It's going to be fluid.
It's right. Yeah.
It's going to be fluid jerking.
Right. Yeah, they're going to perfect the jerk motion.
They're going to clean up afterwards.
Yes.
Then they're going to cook you fucking dinner afterwards. It's not going to be. It's going to be a jerk off sesh, and then everything else. So people are going to rely on technology. This is all the fucking movies that we ever watch.
Right. Okay, but that brings me to this point.
Not me though. I like running fucking hills and mountains. I'm a fucking beast. Fucking robot.
There are implications to technology becoming out of hand, to becoming too advanced, too lifelike, right? But there are solutions as well. You know, like some could argue that there are positive, you know.
Oh, I just said the positive.
Effects.
Believe me, I think way more negative shit comes out of that than positive.
Right.
I can go without a robot jerking me off.
Absolutely.
What I'm saying is, okay, I don't think that it's a smart thing. I think that in my opinion, I think that we've gone far enough. I think that we're going to push ourselves. Do you know what the whole the archetype of like the presentation of like what an alien is? It's like this feeble, weak, small body with a huge head. Do you know what that's simulated, or do you know what that's symbolism for? Is that there's a society that reached a certain point where the physical necessities were no longer needed, that the brain evolved to this just progressed level of intellect to where we've had the knowledge to create things that can do everything for us. Machines, fucking software, all these other things. So that's where we got this whole idea of what an alien looks like. This feeble, fucking gray or green, small-bodied creature with a huge fucking head, symbolizing the fact that they have this advanced knowledge and created this society where technology is so advanced that it's not needed to be able to have a strong core or pick up a fucking box. You know why? Because a fucking robot will jerk you off and then pick the box up for you afterwards. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I guess back to the question is, you don't get any fear or anxiety about what's going to happen? About what technology is going to do for us?
Do for us or do to us?
Both. It's going to do a lot of shit for us, but I would say that the scary shit is what it does to us.
Well, I mean, we're capable of adapting, you know, and I feel like...
What's that Japanese game? What is it? Or is it Chinese? It's called Go. It's like a board game that is the most... it's the most difficult board game in the world. I think it's called Go. I don't know if, forgive me, Japanese and fucking Chinese people, whatever it is. It's the most difficult game I guess, out there, because there's so many possibilities and outcomes that before it was thought that no mind other than a human mind who was inept to be able to I guess possess intuition and forethought could do this. Well, they created a computer that for the first time beat a human being at this game. Mm-hmm. Which I wish I had more information on this, but I sound like a dummy. It doesn't matter. But the point is that computers, in some way, which is what the whole premise of what AI is based off of, are going to reach a point to where they're thinking for themselves, much of like how our mind, it lays a foundation and then it's able to grow and think for itself. Like these goddamn Avenger movies. These like, shitty fucking superhero movies. I'm thinking way in ahead. You don't find anything terrifying about where this is going? About what technology can do for us?
Like, do I have like, that kind of mechanical paranoia? No. Do I? It's not like the movies, man. That's not the way I see it. Like a fucking fleet of,
It's not the movies yet.
Pissed off robots are gonna come and just, fuck us. Like that's not. I don't see that.
And Tom Cruise is not gonna jump out of the closet and save us?
Yeah, that bullshit. Yeah, I don't get down with that kind of logic. You know what I mean?
I think it'll reach that point.
It maybe like to a level of mass extinction. I don't know about that. But what?
Hey, bro, Will Smith would have something to say about that. You ever watch iRobot, bro? Come on, bro.
I don't think I fucking have. I don't think I have, dude. To be honest. Okay, so like, but there still are implications. The emotional, the mental complications. Between distinguishing reality from virtual reality.
Right.
That's more of what I'm concerned about. That shit, is way more, viable, or believable than the idea that a shit ton of robots are going to come and destroy us all.
You think the issues,
robotic tentacles and shit.
You think the issues and the problems rely more on our vulnerabilities as opposed to just robots taking over? You think our vulnerabilities lie more in our own minds and capabilities to overcome these things?
Right.
They rely more on our cerebral, what would you say, boundaries, tendencies.
Yeah.
They rely more on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
But we're the ones that are creating these fucking beasts.
That's true. Right. But if it gets to the level where it becomes detrimental to, humankind, then just stop fucking making the things.
We just sent a fucking Tesla into fucking space. We're not stopping. Did you know that?
I heard about that, yeah.
We're not stopping. We're going to fucking Mars.
Yeah, but they're not building. We're talking about a car. We were just talking about like robots and shit that have like their own artificial intelligence. The car is not thinking for itself and is not going to start shooting laser beams and shit.
But you don't think that rocket ship is thinking for itself?
I mean,
it's being controlled in a certain level, but you don't think that people are 24/7 making every choice for that fucking thing? It's regulating temperatures. It's pumping fucking whatever these chemicals are to regulate fucking. I don't know what the fuck it is.
Are we talking about whether or not something can be like programmed to sustain itself? Or
We're talking about something my own personal fear of the future.
or are we talking about like
my own personal fear of the future, bro? Come on.
Or are we talking about like robots and, machinery that becomes compassionate, that becomes, self-sustainable?
Well, I don't know. What do you think the difference between, don't you think compassion can be broken down to some kind of equation?
No.
You don't think so?
No. Not necessarily, man. I mean, this is, we're not qualified to,
Of course we're not qualified to do that.
This is
we're just having a conversation.
This is just our opinion.
We're having a wine conversation,
so
bro.
The way I see it, it's just like, you can program an algorithm, or you can design a formula, right? Create a formula, that can react to certain stimuli, right? You slap a robot and it's
programmed to cry.
Right, but those programs have to be laid in place before that that action ever happens. It has to be
Correct.
It's essentially just a fucking formula.
It's a reaction to an action,
which is already laid out
yes.
before.
Yes.
So they can't. So as far as we know, some kind of technology cannot act in a way that we haven't already.
These robots are
predisposed them to act.
They're programmed to detect body language, your facial recognition, your tone of voice, the intensity, the volume at which you're talking to this, artificially alive robot or machine, and then the robot is programmed to react a certain way, but can a robot
do something we didn't program it to do?
Think in a way that is so complex that the human mind can? No, it can't. It just can't, dude. It can't.
Not right now.
Not right now, it can't.
But if we got a robot to think like Dick Cheney,
Dude,
we'd all be fucked.
Because how do you even compare though, man? How can you compare something that is artificial?
Well, because
to the emotional range that humans have, they're two completely different things. You know what I mean? Because when you actually consider the depth of pain or the depth of joy or these emotions, it goes so far.
Right. But what would you equate the pain that you have if you got stabbed in the stomach to an animal that got stabbed in the stomach? Would you know how to? Would you be able to? I would say. Would you say that you can relate your pain to an animal's pain? Do you think you have the knowledge to say what an animal would feel if it got bit in the fucking neck by a cheetah, whereas you got bit in the neck from a cheetah? Do you think that animal feels the same way you do? Because let me just tell you this. You know this just like we all know this. There are people that they're wired in certain ways where pain feels like pleasure to them. Hence the dominatrix, hence people who enjoy, pain as pleasure. They're wired in a certain way where pain doesn't feel the same way as we do. Or, I don't know how you feel pain, but how would you explain something like that? There are people that don't feel pain in the same way. Like if you stubbed your toe, if you got kicked in the nuts, it would hurt. I'm assuming that it would hurt if you that's not something that you would that you would like to have happened. But there are people out there that like to have their nuts smashed.
Right.
And that's how they get off. Mm-hmm. So how would you explain some other creation's pain? Maybe pain is not something that's relevant in thinking or feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
I don't like my nut smashed. I'm also going to say that I don't think some kind of computer-generated sex doll would also think that being kicked in the nuts or pussy would hurt.
I'm not doubting the capability of the emulation of emotions. I'm just questioning the validity of them. They're invalid.
Why do you need something to be valid if it can overpower you in more ways than physical?
What?
Why do you need validity for something that can't overpower you in more ways than physical? If there is a computer or an AI, an artificial intelligence being,
right,
that is clearly man-made, but has the mechanism to think for itself.
Yeah, but that's mechanics.
But, okay, so when your arm gets ripped off, are you just going to say, oh, it's just mechanics?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's going to be okay because it's mechanics?
No, it's not going to be okay. No, I'm just saying
Or let's say.
I'm talking about human emotions compared to robotic emotions. They're invalid. They don't.
But what I'm saying is that it doesn't matter how valid they are on a biological level.
Right.
It still has the power to overcome.
Well, sure.
Another species, right?
Yeah, they have strength. I'm sure. Yeah. If they're programmed, yeah, they have strength and they can literally, they're capable of violence and they can, beat the shit out of you.
Well, my whole thing was, you're not scared of that?
I'm not scared of that because I don't, like I said, I don't necessarily foresee that. I don't see that as
In your lifetime?
on a list of like actual fucking threats, like shit that like worries me on a daily basis already. That's far on the fucking list, dude. Like
You're probably
the robotic apocalypse like is definitely far down. It's not high up on the list there.
hopefully Arnold's alive when that happens, though, man.
Arnold?
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger? Oh, dude, he's gonna be the first to die, man. He's high profile.
No, black people are.
Lowly people.
Just kidding.
Lowly people are gonna be the first ones, are gonna be the last ones to live.
Lonely?
Lowly. Like,
lowly.
Yeah, like the low class.
All right, so we're going to do an hour. We got about 4.5 minutes left. So let's get off this fucking goddamn topic of goddamn automated reality and artificial intelligence in the future, because clearly both of us are not going to be fucking robots anytime soon.
Sure.
So back to your photography.
Yeah.
Let's blast it out.
Blast it out.
What's your plan with the photography? What are you doing now to grow your photography? What do you foresee yourself doing in the near future?
That's a good question, man. Right now I'm kind of just like weighing it all out, I don't necessarily have a strict plan, still taking it day to day and trying to figure it all out on my own in my own time,
Would you say that you like how it's going? You like that the way that you're doing it now, you have it, it's in your control, it's in your responsibility. What you produce is only is equates to what you're putting into it. Do you like that part of that? Do you like the part of, working on your own and producing your own work? That's something that appeals to you?
It does appeal to me. It absolutely does. Obviously it comes with its own implications and being the only person almost, that produces all of it, and sometimes, you can critique your stuff way too hard, or, you convince yourself that it's not working out, or that things, just aren't going, when enough things don't go right for you, you can become very discouraged, and it's tough sometimes.
The cunt in your head will fuck you harder than anybody will.
Absolutely, and that's where I find myself at, somewhat right now, kind of just being.
You mean like questioning your work, or questioning how far you can take it? Maybe not on a creative level, but I
guess like how far I can take it,
Clearly on a creative level, you do good shit. You do amazing shit. Or else I wouldn't have wanted to sit here and.
The thing is, becoming successful in this, and is not necessarily hard. What I find to be hard is to do something that can become both financially viable and emotionally viable.
Why emotionally?
Because I require so much of my, my peace and my calm, my happiness stems from my ability to create art one way or the other.
Right.
Whether it's making music or drawing something, maybe.
Like your mood can steer the direction of your work.
Yeah. And it's interesting, man,
your chemistry.
Because it's been a growing experience. It hasn't just been all, happy stuff and taking kick-ass shots, and making it look easy. Making it look easy. That's the thing. That's where there becomes a lot of cover-up in the online society.
Yeah, where people don't see the behind-the-scenes shit.
Yeah, it's like you didn't see me fuck shit up a whole lot. It's like all you see is the ideal fucking, perfect shot that I nailed.
All you see is the finished product, which is
exactly.
That's most of the time, and it's almost all the time that we see with people that we idolize. We see the finished product.
And the older I get, though, dude, like the more I do this stuff, the more concerned I become with creating something that can just,
something with substance. You know what I mean? Something
with emotional attachment,
with intent. You know what I mean? With intent, dude. You know what I mean? Because with the ability to take thousands and thousands of shots at any time on your phone, on your fucking camera that has like 32 fucking gigabytes on it or whatever, it's just like makes you think about how close you have to watch to take the perfect shot, when it's appropriate, when it's right,
and
I
when
mean?
and in the
not
moment
just
when it
blasting
feels
here and there and there and there and there and
Right.
kind of just like I guess that's a good shot, with this edit, you know what I mean? It's just like there are so many inspiring people that have done this shit, dude. You know what I mean? They're my girlfriend right here. She's an amazing photographer herself.
Oh, I didn't know that.
She is, man. They've got a couple of our pictures hanging up, both of ours. Everybody has their own intent, and everyone has their own flavor and character, to what they do.
So,
and some people seem to do it so seamlessly, dude. Tons of people look up to me. I'll admit that, don't mean to sound cocky. Tons of people look up to what I do, and, just like you,
right, I wouldn't be doing this right here with you if I wouldn't appreciate your work.
You appreciate it. You look up to it, you can dig it. And that there's a lot of other people like that as well, but from where I stand, there are people who just intimidate the shit out of me creatively, man. They're just on it, man. They're grinding, they're enjoying themselves. They're, they love where they live. That's something that I'm working on as well, with the move and trying to find somewhere that I can really settle down and somewhere that I can take my creativity to the next level, somewhere that inspires me to do what I do and, somewhere that's going to open the door, man, like that.
I think that's a goddamn perfect way to fucking end the goddamn podcast.
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
That's good.
I think we reached a good ending.
Yeah, so that's what's on the horizon, man. Just knowing that there is a bigger world out there, and sometimes you just got to jump in and go see it, because you don't know what you're missing. You don't know what you're missing for real.
Listen to this fucking man. He speaks words of wisdom. Is an artist.
It's a beautiful country, man. It's a beautiful world, and everybody, there was anything I wanted to say, it's that everybody owes it to themselves, to take a breather and to just like look at the trees or, observe the sun, take a minute, go sit down, breathe, and look around you, because when things can become overwhelming in our world, in our life, whatever it may be, taxes, children, school, homework, you know what I mean? Taking care of your fucking pets that shit everywhere and throw up everywhere. It's very important to just take a minute and just check shit out because you might be surprised, you could see.
Dude,
so much.
That was beautiful. That was good. Perfect way to end the podcast. I would just like to add that if you ever lay in bed at night or you're doing your fucking measly little fucking tasks throughout the day and you find yourself thinking about the same thing over and over again, something that you want to do, something that you're thinking about often, something that you find yourself passionate about and you're just scared of doing it, it's only on your mind because it means something to you and you're passionate about it, and those are the things that you should be striving to do. Much like this podcast and starting this and you with your photography, I thought about podcasts for a long time. I didn't know how the fuck I would do it. I didn't know how I didn't know how I could do it. I didn't have the money, and on top of that, a lot of people experience just fear of succeeding, which sounds so silly, like fear of being successful because you're scared of trying, which the bigger implication here is failing.
It's the fear of failure.
Exactly. The fear of failure is what resonates deeper on a fucking biological level, on a goddamn generational level. It's passed down as a survival mechanism through all generations, doesn't matter who the fuck you are. And so just taking a step out and trying, doing something, taking a chance, you're going to fuck up, you're going to fail. Einstein did. Fuck. What do you want me to say? Everybody fails.
I tell people all the time, failure is my middle name. Like, I am
Well,
You know,
I'm gonna start calling you failure.
I'm so used to it, man. You know, and it you have to be okay with that. You know, and you have to fail at shit to really like sift through. You know, and figure out what you're good at. You know,
On top of that, if you won every time you tried something, you'd either be a fucking robot or Kim Kardashian, which, you know, she's a piece of shit anyways. So I'm just saying, you have to try. And so the only way that you find your path through life, the only way that you find success is by failing, because it's the only way that you find a way to succeed. Franklin with the goddamn light bulb did what? 213 different prototypes before he finally made the light bulb, whatever the fuck it is. It's just trying, and it's just figuring out what works and what doesn't. So thank you, brother. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks for the wine.
And yeah, man, wind out. Yeah, so this is podcast number 1 coming down. Thanks for having me over, brother. And it was inspiring. And once again, I didn't choose to sit down and have a conversation with you for no reason. So thanks, brother.
Appreciate you.